Okay, so today what we've got is a Girard Perregaux world timer. Somebody had commented on one of my videos that they'd like to see everything from start to finish. So this is the way it actually came in. It came in with, he was complaining that it was losing time and not working properly. So what'll happen is now I've already taken the strap off of the watch. This will give you a reference of what it looks like before it goes to my refinishing gentleman in the back of the jewelry department. So that will come back from him when I ask for it. You can see the case. It's got a few blemishes. There's one there. There's a gouge here. Some wear there. There's wear on the crown. Scratches, light scratches, little tore ups. Got a gouge here on the bezel, scratches around the bezel. Little tore up, nothing real horrible. Here in the back you can see there's some couple scratches here and there, a few over here. So that will all go to the refinishing in the back of the store, and the gentleman will take care of that, and he does a great job. Actually, he does an incredible job. We just got in a brand new polish and refinishing motor, so he's been doing a really great job. So let's go ahead and take it apart, and we'll get part of it off to him, and the other part I will take care of. So we will start off with taking our case back off. I'll actually use a steel screwdriver to get these off because they're probably fairly tight. So take all these off and see what we've got ticking inside here. The watch is running, but it's running slow. The amplitude is pretty low on it, so see what's ticking inside underneath. It looks like it's a Girard Perregaux 3387. This is their 63 jewel. So it's nice to see that everything looks alright to start with. So now we get this, slowly start packaging this up for the refinishing in the back. First thing we'll do is take the 6 screws in the bag. I give everything to the refinisher. The screws for washing and refinishing the heads, the case, everything but the gaskets and the crystals. He gets the crowns as well. And then I'll take care of sourcing gaskets and everything else that I need. You can see on here there's little rust here and there, rust here and there. Better shot of the case back where it's got some scratches and stuff. He'll re-sandblast that and get it back to me. So everything I give him I put in a plastic bag, separate it out. I write on the plastic bag what's in there. Then I write it on the envelope that I give it to him with as well, so he knows everything that I give him, so we know if something comes up missing, what I gave him, what I didn't give him. Getting a container prepped up for putting a few things in that I'm going to wind up washing by hand, and a place to store all the gaskets as well. Alright, so let's take a peekaboo at this bad boy and see what we've got going on here. So the first thing we need to do is take off that rotor so we can get to the rest of the watch. And again, I'm using the bronze and beryllium screwdrivers so that we're not scratching these blued screws. And nickel tweezers to minimize scratching on the bridges. These are going into the super small basket. So that we don't lose them in the washing machine. So we got two screws that hold on the rotor and the rotor axle. It's all held together there. And this one has steel bearings. So everything looks good on that. So I'll pop that in the basket for washing. You can't see, but I've got all my baskets set up here right above so that we can put stuff right in the basket as we're done with it. Now we need to let the power down on this. So get the crown out, make sure, yep. Right here, they're nice enough to put that down. Let's see. Yep, power's let down all the way, so we're good with that. Now I'm going to take the balance out and set it off to the side. We'll reinstall that at the end before we go to washing. Now if I remember right with this balance, there should be a stop lever underneath there and a shim, as is with most of their 3000 series. So pull that screw out, put it off to the side. Now you pull the balance out, turn it over, minimizes me doing any damage to the pivots while we're cleaning stuff around here. This is the stop lever, or the hacking lever, and this is a shim that they put underneath. I think it's to for the adjustment of the end shake. You can get this shim in different sizes, I believe. Probably doesn't really need wash, but I'm going to put it in the wash anyhow. Okay, so now that's out. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull a pallet fork and pallet fork bridge out of the way before I decase the watch. So we've got two different size screws here. One is the small one, and one is a bit larger. These are very, very small screws. Tell you, wish I had a dime. I'd put a dime there and you can see how small these things are. But needless to say, they're very, extremely small. Especially those first three, the two for the rotor and the one here on the side. Alright. This always makes me a little nervous because even though I let the power down, sometimes you think you let it down but you don't. And it can damage the pallet fork stones, which the stones look good on here. The pivots The pallet fork looked good, so it goes in the basket. And then the pallet fork bridge and the first screw go in the basket. I put the smaller one in my smaller basket here to keep it keep the smallest ones down. So now let's take a look at getting this out of the case. Here's what we've got. We've got two here that are holding the ring inside the case, holding in the casing ring, and then two holding the movement to the ring. So let's go ahead. On this one, they're probably in a little harder, so I'm going to use a steel screwdriver. These are usually cranked down pretty, yeah, they're in there pretty stiff. Yeah, there we go. So we get these out. Put them up in here, up in the basket. Now that that's done, take these two. Yeah, those things are in there tight. They do not want this thing coming out. No, that one's loose. Alright, so these come, both of those are out. Now, nice brass tweezers. This should be able to, yeah. So this comes right out. This is just a casing ring. All it does is hold it, the movement tight to the ring tight to the case. So we're all set on that. That will go in the wash as well, even though it really doesn't affect much. I still like to have everything clean. This is the crown for moving the, you can see it moving in there, the time zone ring, and this is your regular day crown. So now, find my steel probe. It's very nice of them to put the arrows here. I like that. Set that in there and pull that crown out. Check that stem, see if there's any specific wear patterns on there. It doesn't look like there's any. So that will get washed as well. So now we're ready to take the movement out. And actually what I'm going to do, I can see that this is a modular chronograph. It's got, there's 3 screws here. So it's got a base unit plus a modular chronograph. It's a Du Bois chronograph, I can tell just by the setup. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to do this piece by piece. We're going to take the movement first. Take the movement out first. So it isn't tight enough that it enough that I need to reshape my screwdriver on that. So take and give a quick reshape on that. having proper shaped screwdrivers. I think we already talked about how important that is. And with the bronze and the beryllium screwdrivers, it's actually somewhat hard because it's a soft metal and you're using it on steel screwdrivers, steel screws. So it's you wind up reworking them quite a bit, it seems like to me. But a screwdriver that's not in good shape is actually going to do more damage than anything else. Because it just mars the screw. It makes it look horrible. So now that I've got it partially set up, I finish it up with a little bit of finesse on a diamond. Take off any horrible burrs or anything else that might be on there. So now, there we go. These things are in here pretty tight as well. Alright. So now, these are out. Put them in the basket. That one I want off to the side because there's a little small piece of, it came out, a small piece of beryllium was broken off in there, so. Now we're off. Now this movement should, lift straight up and off of the modular chronograph. Ever so carefully, but still, so that's what we're looking at. Now you can see here, well, hopefully you can see, there's the drive for the seconds, hand, minute, hour. Everything is driven off that one, off the top piece here. That drives the entire watch. So your minute, jumper for your date. You notice that there's no dates on here. That's because that drives this one. This one fits into a slot. I'm going to say it's probably this one right here. And as this jumps, it turns this, which turns the date inside. And this here's the vertical clutch chronograph. So we'll see how this part comes out first before we know if we need to do anything with this part. So we're going to put the base off to the side. We're going to take this out. Take this out. Slide this into a storage for now, because we still need to take this case apart and get it to the refinisher. So we're going to put the movement up here for a second, and then we're going to quickly finish taking this case all the way down so he can get it and do what he needs to do before I get started on mine. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take off this bezel and take the city ring out. On this one, again, I'm going to use steel because these screws are usually in fairly tight. Yeah, they're in there pretty tight. This one is actually rusted in there. That could wind up being an issue. This one is rusted as well. Since these screws are not, we're not able to get them, we may have to see about maybe manufacturing something. I'm hoping that it's not a surface rust issue versus a rust issue, but you know, that is one of the unfortunate aspects of watch repair, is making. Oh, it's coming. There we go. Heard the click. That's what you want to hear when you're unscrewing something that's rusted. You hear that click, you know that you're good. So that is done. Now what we want to do is carefully take this ring out. Very carefully. Notice it has a gasket around it. Make sure that gasket is well and intact. And then put this along with the movement off to the side. So now we've got the bezel off. Now I'm going to pop the crystal out in a few minutes. But first, let's take a look at this case and see what we've got here. So now we know we've taken that out. We need to have these 4 screws actually come all the way out from where they are. A few of them feel as though they are rusted in. So, yeah, you can see the rust coming off of there. So, all 4 of those need to come up and out. Interesting, this one looks like it actually had a sleeve of some type on it. Maybe that was it looks like they used a Loctite type adhesive. It holds the screws in. Now you can see here I have 2 short screws, 2 long screws. Not that they're longer, just the thread on them is different. So I want to investigate and see. It actually looks like this one may have, looks like both of these may have broken at one point. May have been broken at one point. Looking at the bezel, you can see that they are, because there's a hole. This one's a nice deep hole. This one you can actually see the head of the screw sitting there. This one you can see the head of the screw sitting, or well, it's actually the end of the screw sitting there. So we're going to have to figure that out. That's probably, hopefully there's not too much water damage in the watch because of that. So now we're faced with knowing that ahead of time, which is, well, not ahead of time, but we find out afterwards. So now I know I'll need to figure out what we're going to do about that, but that all goes in a plastic bag for him to do the refinishing. And I'll probably, what I'll do is I'll take this crystal out, then I'm going to heat this up and see if I can't take and back those screws out. We might put in an ultrasonic for a little while and see if there's some movement in there. Hopefully we'll be able to back them out versus taking and drilling them out. Backing out's always better than drilling out. So now we've got this crown, and well, it's not really a stem, it's just, it's a crown. Crown with a gear attached. We're going to take that out and take our 2 pushers out, and we're going to take out this gasket and make sure that that's alright. See, now these are the clicks. The the ring that we took out sits on there and clicks as this goes around. So as it turns, it clicks. It goes from Denver to LA to Hawaii. It clicks each time it turns, so that it sort of locks it, quasi locks it into place. So we're going to see if we can, yep, pop one of these clicks right out. So there's one. Same thing, these I'm actually going to wash on my own. So there's 3 of those. And we certainly don't want to lose them because there's no getting those. So we have 3 of those set off to the side. Now we're going to take out the pushers and the crown. So for the pushers, again, I'm hoping we don't have stuff in here too tight, because I hate breaking screws. Oh, this one's good. So this screw comes out. Same thing, I wait until I hear that back click. Then I know I can take the screw out. Take the spring out. And then I have to see what's in here as far as there's usually 2 gaskets, 2 rubber gaskets and a metal ring. So use an old oiler and look what we got there. 2 gaskets and a metal ring. Just like I thought. I'm not going to take out the pusher tube. There's no need to take that out. We'll take the gasket out of here, out of the winding and setting crown. Gasket there. And we're going to take this other pusher out, but we'll put the first one. First one goes in a case off to the side, because he'll get that as a separate, that's a separate refinishing he does. What I refer to as macro and micro refinishing. This will be macro refinishing, and then when he gets to the smaller parts, the crown, the pushers, that type of stuff, I call that micro refinishing, because it's two different procedures. You use a big wheel on this stuff, and then use a smaller one when you're dealing with this more handheld stuff where there's not as much power. So now we're same thing here. A screw, that, spring, and metal washer with 1. 2 O-rings. There's the second one. Same thing. We got two O-rings. So that goes into another one. I always try and keep the spring with the pusher with the screw. It's almost like everything was, that's been working together for a long time. So it's got micro grooves and stuff all on it, so I try and keep it together so that stuff is married together. I got this last one, which is the crown. I'm actually going to take and screw the crown in so that that part is tight, and then come in okay, so that doesn't. Interesting. Okay, so the crown actually has to be out to unscrew this. There we go. Different system I'm used to, so screw. back side of the gear. You can see the hex on there. And now we'll take that crown all the way out. And then take this gasket out. And then same thing, now that'll go, crown will go into the wash. I'm actually going to put the gear and the screw into the wash, put the gasket off to the side. Take care of that later. So now this is ready to go to the refinisher, because we got everything off, done. So take a close look at that. You'll see when it comes back how incredibly new it's going to look. So that's out of the way. Now I'll also take the band apart, give him that, my metal pusher. So he'll get the spring bars, the rubber band, get all that together, and then separate plastic bags for him. And they've got ultrasonic, I work in a jewelry store, so we've got ultrasonic tanks and all sorts of stuff back there for them to deep clean all that. They'll deep clean the rubber. It'll all come out looking fairly new. So that's the way it looks now, and you'll see it when it comes back. Now, so put all that off to the side. Small amount cleaned up. Still a little worried about this. A little bit worried about how we're going to handle that. Since that looks like it's tight in there. And this one looks like it's tight as well. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and pop that crystal out. And then we'll get that sent back to him, and they can take care of getting it out. I mean, that's what they're back there for, is the drilling and tapping and making of things. So we'll put that off to the side, but we'll get that done, and then we've seen all the parts of the bracelet and case and everything that's going to come apart on that. So now we're going to start taking this apart. Take a good long close look at this movement. Make sure we get it in the holder properly. We don't want to, absolutely do not want to be messing anything up on this. Take a look at a few things. Alright, so let's get it taken apart. Again, using our beryllium screwdrivers. Get these things look straightened out here for me. Put my steel screwdriver back where it belongs. Get my nickel tweezers ready. And let's go for broke on this. Take a we'll see if we can edit that part out, because that is not cool. Alright, we're good. And there's no mark. It is hard to work around this camera. So, that'll happen sometimes. Alright. So we got 3 screws holding that on. course, now I'm a little shaky after that accident. But that's alright. Still got to keep on going. Get back on the horse. Go, go, go. Alright, so those 3 screws into the washing basket. The bridge lifts off ever so lightly. Be careful with that wheel. Flip it upside down, you can see what we got there. Take out the barrel. I believe this one I have to take the other bridge off to get to it. I do. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take this off. Yep. It's in there fairly tight. I've eased up on my screwdriver, so back up to a quick sharpening on the screwdriver. Still too tight. Really don't want to use steel on that, but I may force my hand on this. Let's try one more time. Nope, not budging. So we go with the steel then. Yeah, didn't even hesitate on that. Yeah, that comes out. See how it went in. Check it for round, check it for flat, see if there's any wear, no wear. Back in. I'm going to put this back on, so that way we don't lose the screw. Of course, I will use the beryllium to seat that screw in there. So we got that. Now the barrel, we're going to put that off to the side because that is done by hand. Okay, take a look here what we got. Another 3 screws. So we're going to come in here and take these out. Now I also know there's some stuff attached to this plate. I've done this movement a few times before. Well, I've done the 3000 and 3100 before. Even though it's a 3387, I think the designation is that the base is the 3100, and then it's this is 3387. From what I gather, that's just a designation that it's you know, the modular chronograph from Du Bois modular chronograph on top of it. Scoot around and twist this baby off ever so carefully. Alright, there we go. So that looks okay. Pop these wheels out one by one, check them. I'm looking at the pivots and checking the roundness and flatness and seeing if there's any specific wear patterns on them. My other basket slid up over here, so put my wheels in the wheel slot of the basket. Out of here. Like I said, I'm checking each one. I'm looking at the pivots, whether it's flat or not, and then if there's any burrs or any type of wear pattern. Make sure all the teeth look intact. So far, so good. Escape wheel, same thing. Check it, especially check the pivots. They're usually super, super small on these. Now the escape wheel actually goes into the plastic basket. The rest of the wheels go into the regular wash baskets because they're a little more durable. Yeah. Flatten round, flatten round. Reverser wheel. I also check the reverser wheel by holding on to it and checking I roll it forward to engage the pawls and then backward to make sure that it locks. So it is locking in all positions, so that's good. That means I don't need to replace it, so that can go in the wash. And then I get a special coating when I'm done. Check here. Tension on this looks pretty good. Take that wheel out. Yeah, that's nice. Yep, that's perfectly good. Check this. This is the click. I have to make sure that this lines up exactly right here, so the tension's right on it. And then I look at it from a lateral standpoint too. You want a little bit of movement, but not too much, so that's good. Now here you can see this pivot is attached on the other side to the driving right here. So this is friction fit on. We'll need to take that off. We'll do that when we get to the other side, and then that pinion will drop down and it'll go in the basket. And here we've got another spring. Check the tension on that as well. Make sure that's right. So that is everything we can take off of this side except for the sliding and winding pinion. We'll pop those out now because we're not going to be doing anything else with it. So both of them come out. We'll check the teeth on them. Check the teeth on both sides. Make sure the brigade teeth are wore down, tore up. Make sure all the teeth are on for engaging the setting wheels. They all look good. That looks good. And put that off into another basket for all the stuff on that side, on the bridge, on the dial side when we go in. So now these screws, I'm going to go in with this bridge, but I want to take a look at that bridge real quick. I want to look at a few things on it. Make sure that this rotates freely. There's nothing there. Now this is going to be tight, which it should be in both directions. It should be tight, but not impenetrable. So we're looking good on that. All the pivots here look good. Holes look good, no cracked jewels. Small piece of plastic there. That'll come out in the wash as well. Alright, so we're done with the bottom of it. Now we'll flip her over and make sure it's in here nice and secure this time, unlike last time. Nice tight flat level. All good. Alright, now we're going to come in and take these plates off. And it's not that they're complicated, but there's a few things you have to keep an eye out for on this. As well as one other secret aspect of it. Let's see if I can show you on the wheel that I took out on this wheel. This is something some people might know, they might not know. This here is actually a cannon pinion. You can see here that it's snap fit onto this pinion. So what I can do, I can hold this tight and I can spin this wheel. Now this has to come apart, which I'll do after a little bit here, because it's a special way of taking it apart. I won't show you so the people that are at home can't, this isn't an at-home thing, it's a professional watchmaker thing. So that will come off before I put it in the wash, because it needs to be separated to be washed. Actually, I'll put it up here with the balance on the barrel, keep it out of the way. Alright, so now we're on to, I'm going to take this date indicator maintaining plate off. Wow, that screw is really loose. That one is really tight. That one is really tight. That one's really tight. So let's take and same thing. We'll give it 2 shots with the beryllium, and if it doesn't come loose with that, with a fresh screwdriver, we will go to steel. There's one. There's 2. Screwdriver a little bent out of. Alright, so there's 4. So now I want to make sure they're backed out all the way. This is somewhat of a, I'll say it's critical, because you have to keep a close eye on the way the wheels are on the dial side, their orientation. So I'm going to take it off. There's my 4th screw. And then this plate will lift right up. It's a little over oiled. Take off the you're going to take this spring out. It's a heavy tension spring. A lot of tension on that thing. I had another watch that I did recently that had that on there. So it's a date jumper spring and the date jumper. Now that that's off, we can just lift this out of the way. We want to be very careful with it though, because you need to make sure that it maintains being flat and round. Flatness is absolutely imperative. Round, it'd be kind of hard to bust it out and round without busting it out of flat. So, needless to say, that needs to stay up out of the way. I actually put it in with the modular chronograph and have it hand wash that later. Alright, so let's see what we got here. Setting lever jumper, setting lever yoke, date jumper, intermediate date wheel, all the winding and setting, and the date wheel itself. So let's do it like, let's take off what we can to start. Then we'll take off the date wheel, date jumper. Everything looks good on that. It's nice, it's round, it's flat. Intermediate here, no, that's not going to come off until after we take off our friction fit pinion there. And I can get that off until that's done. This one's not going to come out. The date jumper will though. Pop that out. Take a look at the underside there, see where it's got a friction spring on there. Intermediate, which you want to take a look at and notice the orientation that the tube goes towards the top on that. So you're not putting it in upside down. Your setting wheel, which is on there. Quite a bit of oil on there too. See, looks like too much oil to me. Okay, then we're going to take off the jumper and the yoke and the setting lever. So let's bust in here and pop them off. Yeah, that's in there nice and tight, so we'll go to the steel for that. Stuff is in there with quite a bit of tension. There we go. The setting lever spring. It's our yoke. It's no yoke. And the setting lever itself. Alright, and then we've got our train wheels here, which we're going to take off in a minute. No, can't take that one off either. We've got to take, now we're to the point where we're ready to take that off. So let's take and move all this into the basket and out of our way. So put it all into the basket except for that spring. And the reason is that spring can work its way out through a hole in the basket and wind up getting bent. No can do. No bendies. But the rest of it can sit right up in the basket without any problem. So So we'll get all of that up out of the way here, and I'll show you how these get taken off. So what has to happen is this friction fit wheel needs to come off of this pinion that's right there. Now, as far as the amount of space that you have to take that out, okay, you have no space. I'm not going to lie. There's very, very little. This pivot is pushed all the way up, and it looks like I've got maybe 0.02 space, 0.02 millimeters to take that out. So what I do is what somebody taught me how to do. Let's take two brand new razor blades, and you take those two razor blades and you go like this, and then, because it takes off the very, very, very sharp edge. And then what I do is take a small piece of vinyl wrap, and you place this small piece of vinyl wrap over the top of that pivot, over the top of that wheel. And there's a reason for it, and you'll see in a second. And you press down a little bit so that the wheel sort of sticks onto that piece of vinyl. Now, you're going to come in with your razor blade underneath that. I see it jumped up, and I'm okay with that. So you're going to lay one razor blade there. Come at it from the other side. To get up underneath, that vinyl. It was very difficult to do on a camera. I have no idea how some watchmakers, I don't understand how my instructors in school ever were able to do that. So now you can see we're on there. What you need to do is ease that, sort of ease it. You're sort of going back and forth and slowly lifting until that comes up. You have to be very careful because it's thin. You don't want to bend the teeth, because you're not buying one of these. Then you have to slowly just keep on working it until it comes off. I can see the pivot is going down some. There we go. So now, the reason that you had the vinyl on there was because if that thing would have popped off, because it is actually made of bronze or beryllium, I'm not sure which, when it flies away, you cannot use a magnet to find it. So now we've got it off, and now I'm just checking to make sure that there was no damage done to it. Nope, no damage at all. And as you can see, our pinion fell right out the bottom. So again, that goes in the very small parts plastic, and then all the other wheels are free to come off. Now another thing I'm going to do is when I'm taking making sure there was no damage done on this wheel when I was rocking back and forth, and it doesn't, I don't see any damage. Now the interesting thing about these are, some of these are intertwined, like this wheel, as you can see as I lift this up, it sits on top of there. So this one actually has a wheel as well. Now I'm checking to make sure this is nice and round and flat, and good. There was no damage whatsoever to that wheel. I'm not surprised, just happy. I'm always happy when I don't wreck something. So, and again, other wheels underneath here. And it, I'm doing the same thing. I'm checking for round, I'm checking for flat, I'm checking orientation. Checking to make sure which way they're going in, which way they're coming out. Good. This one, it's interesting because it's got a core. It's almost like an upper core to it when it sits out there. There we go. So this one has a core, and then it sits on top of the core. This one, oh, that's my lunch alarm. I'm just going to turn that off for now. I'm going to work through lunch for a few minutes. Finish this up, prep it up, get it going in the wash. Here. Looks good, looks good. Now this is a friction pinion, which I'm actually not gonna take that out. I don't need to. Friction sits right there. So we are going to take that out. Take that out and wash it. Wash it in small parts because that's a small one that we need. And then we'll take out the cap jewels, put the valves back in. So in the meantime, let's get all our wheels back in the basket for washing. I'm going to do this thing the whole way, start to finish, like somebody had asked me, so that you see the entire process. Alright, so now next I'm going to take out the cap jewel. To do that, I actually need 2 pair of tweezers, and there is a reason why. These springs are on here super tight. So what you do is you're holding this part back and then releasing the spring. Now I may not be able to actually do this on camera just because I want to be. Yep, there goes one. You can see how far up. No, you probably can't. The camera's not that good. That spring jumped up. And I mean jumped up. Because there's that much tension on it. And the same thing happened here, but because I had my tweezers there, this spring didn't go flying off, which I've had happen a couple of times. Cap jewel shot out along with the insetting, and then you put this spring back down in so that it doesn't get bent up in the wash. Okay, so that's that. And this cap jewel and insetting goes into the washing machine. Now, flip the balance over, flip the plate over, Make sure we get it down nice and tight. And then we're going to come back in with the balance and the screw for the balance. And reinstall this. You can get that reinstalled. Then we're going to take out the other capsule. That way the spring itself gets washed, everything on it gets washed. The capsules and the end settings get washed separately. We're set, so let's see. And the same thing, I'm not 100% certain that I can do this on camera because I'm actually quite a ways away from the, oh, there's one spring. There's the other one. Come on out. Doesn't want to come out easily, so small piece of radical. Touch the tip of it. Off it comes and it gets separated because there's no oil in there. It's all worked away. I'm making sure that this spring make sure that this spring is in here. Yep, there we go. That's got my tweezer tip on that. Then end setting and capsule go into the wash. See. Capsule continues to stick to my tweezer. There we go. So now we're done with that part. So that can go in the wash. The plate can, the balance was on the plate. That's all set for the wash. Movement ring, both the crowns. Now we've got two things left to do. We have the barrel and the ratchet wheel, and then we've also got the cannon pinion that I told you about earlier, and I'll show you how to do that. So here we need to make sure these three screws come out. We're going to have to stick them in a little plastic basket as well because you don't want them to get separated out. And for these we'll wind up using a steel screwdriver too, but we need something to put that on. Need something to put this on to hold her steady. That pivot in a hole. There we go. I just like to have something to hold it fairly steady while I take those screws out. So two things, I'm holding it down here and I'm pressing against the wheel to hold it, more centered in the camera. I've got the pivot in a hole, I'm holding the barrel down, and then I'm pressing against the ratchet wheel so that it doesn't turn when I take these screws out. And actually I'm going to loosen them first, and then I don't have to use any pressure to hold stuff really. Sorry if stuff turns low. There we go. So now you take these out. So all three of them are going to come out and into the wash. Ratchet wheel is going to come up off of there. And then you see there, well, you might be able to see or not, there's slight burrs here. This will actually get rubbed across a super fine grit, like 1200 grit piece of sandpaper back and forth like that to take those burrs down before it gets reinstalled on here. And I'll actually wind up doing that before I put it in the wash. I actually have some of that mounted on a piece of glass here in my desk drawer. So I'll just take and pop it up, take it off, put it on that 1200 grit, give it about 3 rolls, and you can see where it's taken and wore down the few high spots on there. And that's just to make it so that it sits nice and flat when it gets reinstalled. And that will go in with the barrel bridge in there. Let's see. Oh yeah, the last thing. We got our cannon pinion. So the question is do I show you how I do it? Yeah, why not? So what happens is that the cannon pinion needs to come off, just like any other watch, just in a different spot, different locale. So what I was shown how to do is you take it as such, turn upside down, hold her tight, press down, and you should be able to lift up on it to remove it. But what I like to do is, because what I'm worried about is if I take and lift up, I'm flexing that wheel. So instead I press down and then I come back in, still holding the wheel tight, still holding that pinion tight, and then press down on the top of it with a pointer to push that down just a little further, and then I come in with an oiler that I've blunted, the tip of this is blunted, and then I use that and just press her out. So that's what I do. And then when it comes to reinstalling it, you install it just like a regular cannon pinion. You set your wheel up. I like to set mine on the, I actually like this little bench block. Set it on there, take it, flip it over, turn it upside down, and then you just press it on. So that is how it gets done in this watchmaker's shop. Now the barrel I will actually service separately. Take the mainspring out and clean the barrel by hand, clean the arbor by hand, clean the mainspring by hand, reinstall the mainspring, reinstall the barrel and or the arbor and everything, and oil it. So now we are at the point of ready to wash, ready to go, but send everything to the my refinishing in the back. So with that being said, we've taken it apart, we've taken the case and bracelet apart, showed you everything, haven't showed you the modular chronograph because I'm not sure we're going to do that part, or if we need to do that part. So when we get back, this will be considered part 1. Part 2 will be putting the watch back together, and then part 3, if we need to, will be the chronograph module. Otherwise, it'll be recasing and timing. So we'll pick it back up at that point.